Hello, everyone. Thank you for choosing my presentation. I am looking forward to reading your comments and questions. The title of my presentation is The Timeless Pressure of Beauty: How Images and Visual Rhetoric Affect Female Identity. My name is Cara Haderlie. I'm wrapping up my second year as a PhD student, which also means that I am done with coursework and will be moving into my research this summer. I have enjoyed learning from all of you these last 2 years, as several of you have been in several of my other courses. I decided to organize my presentation as follows: my research question, an introduction to my position and why I chose this topic, the rhetorical theory of visual rhetoric and semiotics along with scholars in that work that I will highlight, my interest in the artifact and why I chose it, my claim along with evidence, and a bit of discussion about a few takeaways that I gained from this research. My research question is, how can images rhetorically express the social pressure of beauty that girls and women have endured for generations? I chose to include girls and women instead of just females because the images I compared clearly show that beauty pressure begins at a young age and that it has been going on for generations. I could probably argue that these types of rhetorical images have been going on for centuries, but since my images began in the 1950s, I will stick with generations. As we read through the textbook, Borcher and Hunley 2013 Rhetorical Theory and Introduction, Chapter 5 really caught my attention with Barr's theory that visual images can elicit emotion. They can be ambiguous, and it made me wonder if they can be argumentative and cause change through visual activism. This led me to choose the book Grassroots Activisms, Public Rhetorics in Localized Contexts, edited by Lisa L. Phillips, Sarah Warren Riley, and Julie Collin Bates, 2024, to read for this class. Several chapters demonstrate how images provided unpredictable excitement within their community for their cause. Additionally, just as I finished reading how visuals are used for activisms, as a class, reread Cherney 2019 Ableist Rhetoric, How We Know, Value, and See Disability. I was particularly curious about the visual ableist rhetoric that takes place when others internalize and interpret what they see. Therefore, I researched for myself how I responded to images rhetorically and how it may shape my identity and culture. I will briefly review my chosen rhetorical theories and then demonstrate how they are being used in my chosen artifact. Two theories work hand in hand when it comes to the audience's interpretation of images. First, the science of signs and the idea that signs have meaning. Sauger and Pierce, from two totally different continents, France and America, simultaneously developed semiotics, or in other words, the science of signs. They explained that a sign is derived from a signifier, such as a sound or image, and a signified, the concept of the thing the signifier represents. The second part to semiotics is the three types of signs. Iconic signs are one that resembles the signified or what it is. Indexical signs are those that point to or indicate a signified. And symbolic signs are arbitrary and are based on cultural understandings. I will talk about a few signifiers in my artifact later. The second theory is from Roland Barthes, simply named visual rhetoric. It provided a way for us to better understand and interpret images. He broke it up into 3 levels of meaning. First, linguistic. When images have words, they are either denotative, which is literal, or connotative, which implies. A few of my comparative images include words that I believe serve as both denotative and connotative. However, images can tell stories with no words at all. Some are more obvious than others, which could be non-coded iconic, but some much more nuanced, complicated, and open to interpretation, which is named coded iconic. It brings out more emotions, especially when considering the totality of the image. Barth's theories echoes in Cherney's quote found in Ableist Theory 2019. Every way of thinking about something, every perspective, value system, paradigm, and ideology has its basis somewhere. We are not born thinking of things one way or the other, and we are taught to understand the world as we do. In other words, we learn meaning. It does not arise naturally from objects or relationships. I believe this concept of learned meaning emulates in my chosen artifact. The artifact is a pastiche image. A pastiche is a work of art, literature, film, music, or architecture that openly imitates the work of a previous artist. Here you see the original work of Norman Rockwell in 1954. It is an image of an adolescent girl, questionably and insecurely, looking in the mirror as she compares herself to a beauty model in a magazine. Next to her are beauty supplies, a comb and brush, and in front of her is a baby doll toppled to the side. The girl seems vulnerable as Rockwell dresses her exposed, only in a slip. Juxtaposed is a modern imitated image taken by Claudia in 2012. The year is important because it amplifies the generational consistency from social pressure of beauty even at a young age. For example, even though the modern doll is a Barbie instead of a baby doll, the idea of it toppled over, signifying the end of carefree girlhood, is the same. I chose this artifact because I immediately felt a range of emotions when I saw it. As a woman, I can relate to the social pressures to be beautiful that I have felt since about the 4th grade. So I thought this would be a good topic to break down through research as I seek to understand how images shape social behaviors, identity, and culture. I argue that visual messages through images have been going on for generations. The images hold a powerful rhetorical influence, shaping social behavior, identity, and culture. Although they shift and adjust over time and modern cultures change, images portraying unrealistic beauty standards still hold strong. My last comparison image is of 3 women in 1998 putting on makeup and getting ready. In other words, making themselves beautiful. It looks like they are about to go out and socialize. This image is displayed in the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C. I wonder what the purpose is. To show other women and girls that they need to beauty themselves up before they go out? Or maybe that it is a social norm to get ready with girlfriends? Or that putting on makeup, styling hair, and wearing beautiful clothing is a part of a woman's identity? As I pointed out previously, Sauger and Pierce identified that signs are made of signifiers. In this case, the signifier is the pastiche. It has meaning, and the meaning is defined by the signified. In the pastiche, there are images of dolls that signify youth, and more than likely, girls' playfulness. However, the dolls are toppled over. This subtle yet very intentional position makes these dolls a symbolic sign because it complicates the meaning of the play dolls. Being toppled over, as well as facing the girl rather than being next to her like the beauty tools are, allows space for the audience to feel that her childhood is ending and that the pressure of beauty and womanhood has begun. Women and men will feel different emotions when viewing these signs because of what they have been taught or shown or modeled to interact with dolls and beauty tools. Pierce labels signifiers like this arbitrary because it truly depends on the audience and how they understand the signifiers, which bring unique meaning to them. 2 of the comparative images have words. I think these magazine covers say plenty without them, but in this case, the words bring additional rhetoric to the images. Barth explains that linguistics can be either denotative or connotative. For example, the new beauty cover says, "Stop aging now. Look younger issue. The best skin ever." As a 48-year-old, that puts on the pressure. The phrases literally mean what they say, but they are also implicitly telling me that gray hair, wrinkles, and other signs of aging are unattractive unwanted, unacceptable, and must be stopped immediately. However, linguistics is not necessary for an image to hold strong rhetorical stance. 3 of the images have no words, yet cultivate strong emotional responses. Bars labels these rhetorical images as coded iconic. This is because interpretation of what is seen is based on how the audience feels, how they engage and interact with the image. Visual rhetoric is fairly new to the field in comparison to thousands of years old rhetorical theories from Aristotle and other rhetorical scholars. Sonia Foss quotes Sloan in her visual rhetoric chapter in the scholarly book of Smith et al. 2004 Handbook of Visual Communication Theory, Methods, and Media, while explaining the expansion of the study of rhetoric to include subjects which have not traditionally fallen within the critic's purview, the non-discursive as well as the discursive, the nonverbal as well as the verbal. Visual rhetoric now impacts the way people think, feel, and interpret what they see. Grease, 2015, in her book Still Life with Rhetoric, A New Materialist Approach for Visual Rhetorics, talks about how matter, meaning anything non-human, is conceived as a productive, dynamic, and resilient force that shapes reality. New materialism argues that the affordances and constraints of our common world are influenced by matter, and if that is the case, these images have the power to cause societal movements. In Grassroots Activism's 2024 that I mentioned in my introduction, adding images to a campaign moved the cause forward exponentially, especially when the images were transferred online and on social media platforms. Therefore, images hold great power and influence. I argue that the use of images through visual rhetoric shapes societal attitudes and can be used to improve the way people think and feel about those that are different from them or think differently than them. It can improve understanding, inclusion, and tolerance. I urge that images should be considered as a rhetorical move for any rhetorician seeking for change. Thank you.